Hi guys, with Fall Guys becoming increasingly popular, this week I decided to mash up Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout with Plants vs Zombies by creating my own costume concept. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I created a Peashooter Fall Guys costume using the power of Photoshop. As usual, just before we begin, remember to hit those like and subscribe buttons if you enjoy the content on this channel and want to help it grow. Anyway, let's get started. Right then, here we go. So I'm just going to talk through how my process works and all those type of things, because I've never done this before. So basically, I usually start off with a draft, and you won't see it here, but yeah, basically I kind of like outline what I want to do. And then basically the idea of this was to kind of take the character from BFN and then sort of use bits of that character and put it all together. I also decided that I wanted to add this pot. I remember it from the cactus costume, and I thought it'd be really nice to add the little face from like the original Plants vs Zombies. So I really wanted to add that in. And then there's also, like, as I do this, I know I had people ask me before, like, why does this take so long? Like, for example, this bit, like, sometimes you have an idea in the draft, and then once you do it properly, you're kind of like, I don't really like that. So I decided to use the pots a bit more. I think the pot actually looked really good and kind of worked for the whole Plants vs Zombies thing. And then I wanted to make these sort of like shoulder pad things, and fortunately the leaves sort of like fit in really nicely. And yeah, so it just looked really well done. And one thing to remember about this, it's sort of like you've got to match the colors, so like the two images work well together. So there's a number of things you can do that. It's too difficult to go in right now. Then I also added some peas in his hand because I thought that would just be a really nice touch. And then I wanted to add a texture, because you know you obviously have the different colors in Fall Guys. This kind of isn't in the Fall Guys style, but I just wanted to add something a little bit different so you could see it. I also changed the color of his boots to be brown because it was kind of related to the soil. But yeah, creating brown is a nightmare. If you're changing one color to brown, it's really tough. And then the bane of my life whilst doing this was these wraparound vines. I really wanted to add this in because obviously we've got it on Peashooter, but I tried a number of things here, and like as you can see what's happening now, I kind of wrap it all around like I don't know, like an ice cream cone. But I wasn't convinced because I wanted it to be kind of more organic. It's kind of like more random, I suppose. But I eventually decided to go down the route of creating just a headband. As you can see, I wanted to add the vines in other places as well to sort of tie the design together. So I created these nice sort of like vine wristbands, which kind of worked really well. They were a little funny to use, but yeah. Then we get on to the interesting stage. So you can put everything together on your character or whatever you're designing, and often you'll be like, it doesn't look that great. But once you start adding the shading in, that's when the magic happens. And as you can see, I've just added the little face on the pot, which I was very happy about. So yeah, so that was probably like the cutest bit of it. But as you can see now, once we're adding the shading, the shadows, and the highlights, it's starting to come together a lot better. And this is like, it starts to go, yeah, I've done a good job here. It looks all right. So yeah, as you can see, you've got to go through every single object, add in the shadows because you've got to add it on the actual object itself, but then under it, and yeah, those really interesting things that you have to try and get hold of. For example, you also have to work out how the light is falling in kind of a 3D space. As you can see, like the Peashooter like mouth is further forward, so that has its own shadow on everything else. So it's actually a lot of thinking, and that's what sort of takes the time. I'm probably not the fastest at doing these because I actually don't do them that often. But yeah, I also then tried to fix the headband. I wasn't overly happy with it. I was trying to do some leaves to sort of cover it, but that didn't work either. So I just carried on with the shading whilst I sort of had a thought. I had some thinking time, like adding all the highlights. And one thing you got to remember, like with Photoshop, it doesn't necessarily have to be correct, the lighting. Sometimes as long as it looks good, it kind of works. But I always try and make it as realistic as I can. There are bits like on the vines on his hands that aren't technically right, but yeah, it still looks okay. And then I was still not happy with this headband thing, so I decided to add an extra P on his head, because I don't know, it just looked better, and he can be the repeater now, not just normal Peashooter. Then we get to a stage where I sort of tidy up. There was like missing shadows or things that have come off the object itself. There was some dodgy cutting out because I think this was from my thumbnail that I did, and thumbnails you don't have to be as exact. So yeah, so a little bit of tidying up, making it look a bit better. And then I actually did some painting. Now, usually I don't really do this. I'm kind of like a it's called photo bashing or photo montage. But here I actually wanted to extend the vines a bit more, so I actually used the shade and actually just copied the colors and merged them all together, and it actually looked quite good. I was pretty impressed with myself. And then finally we get to the background, which I really like. It kind of went for more of a simplistic sort of like concept art look. I've got the shadow on the floor, which again is another tricky thing, trying to work with the perspective and stuff and working out what part of the shadows is darker than the others. I also added some nice light rays. It kind of looks like he's being abducted by an alien, but yeah. Then add some little stars, some dust, and this really nice overlay that I found, which is called Bokeh. It has all that like fuzzy like circles. Added the circle background that's typical in Fall Guys, and then we added the blur and added my logo and magic. There you go. A whole Peashooter Fall Guys costume. Anyway guys, that's about it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think of this costume in the comments below. But other than that, remember to subscribe and I shall see you in the next one. Okay, thanks guys. Bye. Bye.